All content discussed on Hypochondriac are the individual opinions of Dr. Priyanka Wali and Sean Hayes and should not be construed as personalized medical advice. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical condition in either yourself or others. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the podcast.
Hi, my name is Dr. Priyanka Wali. I'm a licensed and practicing doctor, and I also happen to be a stand-up comedian.
That's interesting. I'm Sean Hayes, and despite my best efforts, I am not a doctor, but I did play one in Macbeth in high school. Infected minds to their death pillows will discharge their secrets. More needs she the divine than the physician. God forgive us all. Look after her! Watch her!
God forgive us all indeed.
Okay, so each episode, Dr. Wali and I will talk about my medical fears and bring on a guest with an incredible medical story.
We'll also play games and learn a thing or two.
I think it's safe to say that I'm not America's first hypochondriac, but I am America's first hypochondriactor. Priyanka.
Yes, Sean.
It should be called Priyanka.
Oh, you're so sweet. Growing up with a name like Priyanka, I'd have to always be like, it's like Bianca with a pre. And then all the white folks would be like, oh, I got it.
It's a pre-yank, right before you yank it.
Yeah, I've heard all of it. You know what's crazy though? Priyanka in India, Priyanka is like the Britney of India.
Is it really?
So common. Like, who isn't named Priyanka in India? So
it's like in the Irish world, it's like Mary.
Yeah, I am basically an Indian Mary.
That's what I'm going to call you. Hey, can I speak to Indian Mary? Is she around? I want to ask you something. We all know that, like, one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast is because it's so exciting to talk about medical issues, blah, 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 which I love. I can't get enough of. But do you ever get, like, bored of being a doctor? Like, is there anything that you're just like, that you don't want to deal with? You're just like, what is the boring stuff for a doctor? Is it paperwork?
Great question. I don't necessarily get bored practicing medicine because the rabbit hole just keeps getting deeper and deeper.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Just when we think we know and understand medicine, something is discovered and it changes our understanding. Like physics is a great example. The stuff we're learning in quantum physics and it's shaping our reality. It's going to affect the way we look at biology as well and physiology.
What do you mean that we're learning? That me and you are learning, or that doctors are learning, or just you and your family?
Certain recent discoveries, like Jesus, Sean. I don't necessarily get bored. And if I do get bored, I am sort of like, oh, that's interesting. Why am I having that reaction?
Are you really studying quantum physics?
Well, I mean, I do like to keep up.
My God.
I'm not like studying it, but I like learning about our world.
I can't even get through a reality show.
I mean, it depends on the reality show, but that's a lot of energy.
Even saying quantum physics makes me want to take a nap.
Well, I'm so glad that we're having this conversation.
Hey, let's get to it. You want to mention who our guests are today? I'm so excited.
Yes, we have a double. We have a pair of
Double
wonderful,
whammy.
Lovely human beings. We got double Jimmys in the house. We got Jimmy Kimmel and Papa Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, it's like a twofer, right?
Yeah, it's a double Jimmy. A Jimmy Jammy.
Yeah, it's kind of like when I buy a 10-piece McNugget meal and I walk out with a McRib and the nuggets.
Can I just say the amount of research that our team had to do to get all the medical history in order to do this episode? Like,
you guys, who's ever listening, you are in for a treat. This is Jimmy Kimmel and his father, Mr. Kimmel, Mr. James Kimmel.
Yeah.
And beforehand, they sent us a list of Mr. Kimmel's ailments. I thought I was a hypochondriac.
Yeah.
This is going to be so thrilling for me. This is going to be like M&M's inside the popcorn, inside a Snickers bar, inside a Kit Kat bar. It's going to be the most delicious episode ever.
I'm curious, as you were reading his list of ailments, did you feel...
Yes.
Was it reassuring to hear that, like, oh, look, this guy has been through literally, the same stuff?
Kindred spirit.
Yeah.
And obviously he's a lot older than I am because he's Jimmy's dad, so we just assume he's older. So, but I'm reading them, I was like, oh my God, we have so many of the same things.
I know,
I'm so
very
excited to talk to
interesting.
him about it.
Yeah.
Before we get to that, I want to tell you the gory truth about what it's like to be a Broadway star.
Oh my
ready?
God. Okay.
So this is my thing. This is my ailment. I was doing a show on Broadway called Promises, Promises. This is in 2010. In a scene during rehearsal, I'm supposed to be drunk in the scene, right? And I put my foot up on the couch, like in a drunk comedy fashion, and I purposefully miss it to do a somersault onto the couch.
Ooh,
of course,
wow.
I did it. I heard something snap in my neck. My whole back completely froze up, all the way up to my neck. And it was the most painful thing. I couldn't move. I couldn't move. And people thought I was joking. I was like, guys, I can't get out of this couch right now.
Ouch.
So they sent me to, first of all, before the hospital, they sent me to this kind of like PT, massage therapy, physical therapy place, whatever. And they cupped me in the back. You know what cupping is?
You had cupping done, yeah.
Yeah, so where they literal like glass cups on your back and it sucks the skin up in them, right?
Right. It's an ancient healing technique used in many indigenous cultures where the idea is that this cup, they create a vacuum using either a flame or sometimes even an actual suction. And the cupping actually is removing impurities or toxins.
Yeah, you know what it's not removing? Any of the pain.
Oh.
It's actually instilling more pain.
Oh, so you didn't have a good experience.
No, it was the worst suggestion in the history of the world.
Well, let me ask you, did someone walk you through what was happening?
No.
Oh,
No,
so
nobody knew. Nobody knew what was happening. So after that, I went to the hospital or a doctor or whatever, and they put me on like muscle relaxers, and that, didn't really help. It just made me high. I was just like, okay, now I'm in pain, but I'm high. Like that's no fun. But I had to take 2 weeks off of rehearsal. And during the 2 weeks, one of the producers, who a dear friend of mine, has passed away since, but he was such an amazing person. He's like, I'm going to get you a hospital bed for your apartment. I'm like, no, you're not getting me a hospital bed for my apartment. That is so over the top, dramatic, like needy, actory, gross. No, I'm not getting that kind of attention in my life.
Oh, wow. So you were super resistant to this idea of getting
What do I want a hospital? No, I'm not getting a hospital bed. So of course, I get back home. There's a hospital bed in the middle of the living room. I was so embarrassed. I'm like, oh my God, because you literally can't get up or sit down. Like you can't move.
Yeah, totally. Was there like a giant bow on the hospital bed the way when they give you new cars?
No, but you know what there was? And I'm not kidding, a giant pizza. There was a pizza in the bed waiting for me. Scotty, my husband, put the pizza in there. I was like, oh my God. So I literally, you sit down just a little bit because it's at waist level. So you just kind of sit down and you turn my whole body. So painful. So what the hell happened to me? And how did it happen? And why did everything in my whole body lock up?
Yeah. So how long did this whole ordeal last for?
It was a good 2 weeks.
A good 2 weeks.
And I must say, it's kind of like, when you have the flu or a cold and you have a fever and the fever breaks and you feel so much better.
Yeah.
I woke up one day and it kind of, my body was like, and it released all of it. And I was like, oh my God. Overnight, it was like it decided to release whatever.
So were you dealing with a lot of stress or were you kind of in a situation at that time where you weren't really allowed to express your emotions?
Not exactly. I mean, yes, it was a highly, highly stressful situation. My first starring Broadway role, it was a musical. Okay. I had to sing 14 songs every night, 8 shows a week. And it was all physical. I had to dance. I was in every scene. And so it was a lot of pressure and stress and anxiety.
I'm sure you were telling yourself that it had to be perfect. You had to be perfect. And so it sounds like perhaps there was more of an emotional component to it, that sometimes certain tensions in our body arise because it's trying to distract us from an emotion. Like perhaps you were feeling so much stress about the situation. And then if you're a perfectionist, you're kind of putting all this stuff on you and suppressing anything that could get in the way. Like maybe you were really angry and you weren't really allowed to get angry about it. And so your body created this tension.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're saying that and then you just felt it dissipate sounds like that 2 week mark after you just released whatever you needed to release emotionally.
Yeah, well, now that you're saying that, it's so true. I definitely had a mental issue going on too because, well, sidebar, I also got stage fright after the show opened and I couldn't freaking sing. And I'd open my mouth and I would go, there's like a high note at the end of a song called Half as Big as Life. And the big high note, big, money note at the end was half as big as life. It was this big fucking note.
Yeah.
And I literally, every night I was like half as big as la, and nothing came out. And it was such another mental block. I think because I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't want to disappoint people. I didn't want to, it was just a lot of pressure I put on myself.
Yes. So I think if you want to get scientific about what probably might have happened to you was paraspinal muscle spasm or tension myositis syndrome, where essentially your muscles, they just completely turned into these rocks and just got completely tense. And again, if you rely on the works of Dr. John Sarno, which we've talked about in the past, like it's sourced by an emotion that's being repressed and not allowing that to be expressed.
Okay, so you said TMS, which is tension myositis.
Tension myositis syndrome. So tension, meaning tension, myositis, inflammation of the muscle cells, and syndrome.
Yeah. Okay, I know about this because of that book you gave me, which I'm reading right now. I want to dedicate an entire episode to other people who have this because I think I have this, and it's because of you that I'm learning more about it, and it's so fascinating, and I want to get that guy on the show.
Okay, so Sarno, unfortunately, is dead.
Let's get him.
Okay, we digressed. But anyways, the other thing I want to say is I think it's hilarious that cupping is this ancient indigenous healing method that you're just like, the only thing I'm cupping is Scotty.
By the way, no, I'm spooning Scotty. I'm not cupping Scotty. Wait, that's so fascinating. By the way, since then, I've tried cupping like years and years later just to kind of see what it would do under regular circumstances. It does nothing.
Oh, really? I've gotten cupping done once, and I really responded well to it. But the reason I went is because I had just broken up with someone, and I was really heartbroken. And the acupuncturist, I share office space with an acupuncturist, so she was like, "Oh, just come. We'll help clear you out." And the cupping, it's like she sucked out my sadness or something. It was incredible.
No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. The only cup I want is a big gulp. And I want like 3 of them on my back filled with a Slurpee. Guys, this is so exciting. This is an extra special episode, super extra, because we have 2 guests on the show. You know, our first guest, Jimmy Kimmel, from his late night show, Jimmy Kimmel Live, which, if you haven't seen, probably means you got what you needed from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. He's been a host for the Emmy Awards and the Academy Awards. By the way, the best host of the Academy Awards, and he's even won a few awards himself. But our second guest is the real celebrity with a list of credits even longer than Jimmy's. It's my pleasure to welcome both on the show, Jimmy and his father, Mr. Kimmel.
Hi, how are you?
How you doing?
Mr. Kimmel, do we call you Mr.? Do we call you James? How would you like to be?
Jim.
Jim. Okay, perfect. Jim
I love
Jimmy.
that.
Jim and Jimmy. That way people know who's talking.
Okay, fantastic.
Because with my eyes closed, you sound exactly the same.
First of all, Jim, I just want to say, I'm Dr. Wali. Thank you so much for that very detailed history of everything you went through.
We got, little backstory. So Jimmy was so nice to have me on his show a few weeks ago. And during the commercial break, Jimmy leans over to me and he says, "You think you're a hypochondriac? Have I got the perfect guest for you? You got to have me and my dad on." My dad, and I was like, he's probably got a couple things. Jim, we're like kindred spirits. We have a lot of the exact same things wrong. I can't wait to get into it. But first, let's kind of just discuss some stuff before we get into that. What do you do for a living? And what's it like having a son as gigantically famous as Jimmy Kimmel?
Well, right now I'm retired, but I spent
What do you mean right now? Are you thinking about getting back into the workforce?
Well, with all the costs of some of the surgeries I had to lay out, I might have to.
See, he can't wait. I told you guys, he cannot wait. He doesn't want to tell you anything about himself other than and he's not a hypochondriac because these are actual, actual things. What is the term, doctor? Maybe you can tell us. What is the term for someone who will not stop talking about his medical ailments ever?
The term is Sean Hayes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I read everything, okay, Jim, and your issues are real. You've had some serious real issues. I mean, you had 16 surgeries, and many of them were all on your tendons.
We have 16 hours to get to each one of them.
That's right.
Each tendon injury is going to be its own episode. And what I noticed is that there were certain themes. I mean, many of these issues were orthopedic, and you have had a lot of tendons torn, a lot of ligaments torn, a lot of aches and pains. And I'm just curious, your joints are all tight. Your ligaments, your tendons, are you wound really tightly?
Like your son.
No, I just think, a lot of it was in the family. There was neuropathy in the family, my sisters, and I got pain in my legs, and that started it. And then certain doctors said, hey, I could help you.
You can hear me laughing through this whole thing because I can see how happy he is. I've never seen him happier than he is right now.
Wait, can I see his face? Can I just see his face really quick?
He looks just like Wolf Blitzer.
You've been through some stuff. I mean, you've really lived through a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't just develop those issues unless they've seen some shit.
Just real quick, though, I was a vice president for many years at American Express Technology. I went over to IBM for several years, and then I retired. But at one point, because I got so involved with neuropathy and nerve surgeries and how they could relieve the pain in your feet, I became very friendly with my foot doctor to the point that he got me on the board of directors of the Neurological Surgery Society.
Come on, really?
I swear to God. And they asked me to come to Vegas, and I actually led a discussion with 500 surgeons from around the United States.
No
Wow.
way.
Telling them about how they diagnosed my nerve pain, how they ran all the type of testing that they were doing.
Right.
Let's tell people what the issue was. So
This, by the way, is my dad's version of going to Vegas for a hooker. This is his version of just a wild weekend in Vegas.
So tell people what the main issue was, because I read all about it, but I want people to know it started with your ankle, right? Or your foot or something with your foot.
Yeah, I had some knee problems before, but it was the ankle, and I had severe pain every night, burning pain. I just could not. It was extremely painful, and I went to a couple of doctors, and they didn't really have much relief for me. But one doctor said, well, it was plantar fasciitis.
Yeah.
Found out that wasn't it after he gave me a surgery to release the tendon. Then he sent me to this Dr. Barrett, who I didn't know at that time was world known. He mentored under a doctor from Johns Hopkins, and his specialty was in nerve surgeries like decompressions. And
so it wasn't plantar fasciitis, because I have that.
Plantar fasciitis was just a symptom I was going through, but it wasn't the root cause.
Okay.
And as it turned out, he said, look, we're going to open you up. I believe there's a couple of areas where we could, release the nerve. And he took a video. He actually videotaped the entire surgery, which I see every now and then just because I like to.
That's how he masturbates.
Yeah. And it's crazy, but I literally it was like an hourglass. And when he opened me up, you could see the blood flow right through the veins, and the pain in that area stopped. And I wound up having 4 different nerve decompression surgeries in my foot, and then one on each side of my knee. And from that point on, I never had any nerve pain again. And this doctor does that all over the world. He's really good.
My father gives talks at birthday parties, weddings, anywhere a group of people might congregate. He will educate you on his plantar.
It's unbelievable.
Before I forget, what type of doctor are you? Because I may not have had something that your specialty is in yet, and I could,
I'm in internal medicine, doctors. I'm a general practitioner. I'm curious, you got the runaround by the medical system, and it sounds like you got mansplained a lot by a lot of different doctors, and your pain was so real, like you were in real physical pain. How did it feel to be called a hypochondriac?
This one doctor I went to, it was the second doctor for a knee surgery. He was a big guy, but I was ready to fight him.
Wow.
Sure.
He said to me flat out, he says, I think you're being more of a hypochondriac. It's kind of like I'm making it up.
Right.
I hate that. Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there, I said, so the pain that's going through my effing kneecap right now is made up, right? I just walked out.
Right.
He hobbled out just to prove a point. He limped out, right? He's like, look at me limping out.
But then I went back to the original doctor I went to, and his
punched him right in the face.
His assistant said, you just got to tell this guy that, you're in such pain that you need to do something. He said, okay, I'll scope you. And that's when he found out in my knee that I had a major meniscus tear, but I had this cronmalacia patella, which my kneecap was cracked underneath. And it's all that stuff that came out that was causing the pain.
So far, we've had the exact same things. I'm less than half your age. I have to be. So I had a meniscus problem. I have feet problems. So it wasn't a torn meniscus, or it was?
Yeah. Originally, like a year before, he said I had just a minor tear. But when he opened me up, it was major.
Oh, my God. I've realized that my father's just found his soulmate, and it's Sean Hayes, and vice versa. I mean, this is the kind of thing, if this conversation was happening in a social setting, I'd walk over to my father and go, all right, okay, enough with he gets it.
Yeah, he's taken care of. You can leave.
We were at a music awards show, and I'm talking to James Taylor, and Jimmy looks at me like, he just yells out, Dad, leave him alone.
I don't know what, we're talking about hypochondria. I don't think anybody thinks he's a hypochondriac except for that doctor he wanted to fight, which is a new story to me. But what it is after you have the surgery, you are so preoccupied with it. And it's not just, this extends to bowel movements, etc. And I'm not going to say I'm not the same way. I am. Okay. But he is preoccupied with his physical well-being to the point where he feels like he has to share it with literally I don't track him 24 hours a day. But I know that if I did, I'd realize that this is like a million times more than I realize.
Yes, no, I am exactly the same way, because if it happens to you and your body, you are more interested in everything about it.
I'm going on a limb here, but I think you guys are searching for answers. You're trying to search for solutions, right?
Yes. My question is, how do we get him to stop this?
Okay.
Recently, I could have had 17.
Okay, Jim, let me ask you a question. You're obviously very open about sharing your physical ailments. What about sharing your emotions? Do you keep your cards pretty close to your chest, or are you someone that's very open emotionally?
Oh, I'm very open.
Yeah,
I'll tell the mailman, if I see him limping, I'll tell him that, I know somebody can help you.
That's not being open with your emotions.
That's different.
Your communication, that is not, that's what he thinks being open is.
Yeah, being open. If I walk in a Home Depot, I'll say hello.
It's more than that. It's like, it is an excuse to get that mailman. Yes, I'm sure you want to help the mailman, but also you want to tell him about what happened to you, and he's going to listen because, first of all, he's delivering the mail, and there's nowhere to go.
Right.
So the idea is that, again, there's a common theme in your ailments. They're all related to contracture of ligaments or contracture of tendons. These tendons start ripping on multiple areas. So if you want to look at it from a mind-body sort of sense, like, why are you so contracted? What are you really holding in that isn't coming out that's causing your body to be so physically tight?
Couldn't that just be not stretching? Or
look, millions of people don't stretch. How many of them actually develop torn ligaments, right? It's if you really want to look at things from a mind-body connection, there's probably some stuff that you're not expressing. And so the questions that I would ask, would be like, what is your relationship to sadness, or what is your relationship to anger? Are those emotions that you can allow yourself to feel, or do you bottle it all all in and keep yourself really tight and contracted.
Now, I get angry, probably at the wrong things.
Okay.
I get angry and I get talking to somebody, customer service, and name the company.
More frustrated.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get very easily frustrated.
Most of the things is I've been doing a lot of physical work, and not afraid to do things even at 75. So
yeah, he's dragging sandbags into my son's backyard, doing everybody's lawns. He's very physically active.
Right now, I am not sitting on my left cheek. I have to lift up.
To let one out, or?
I have a pillow that I sit on. It's for the piriformis, the ischial tuberosity.
Okay.
It's got two holes, and when you sit, the ischial tuberosity bones sit right in it. And recently, I was doing some heavy lifting, and I wound up, I got a grade 3 hamstring tear right now.
Are you kidding me?
Going for steroids, with a pain management doctor here in L.A. But I was disappointed when the guy told me there's no surgery anymore. We used to do it. We don't. My view is for 6 months, I'm in pain, agonizing pain. I'd rather have the surgery to get it over with.
Okay, but Jim, let me ask you something. There's a thing called physical therapy where you can avoid surgery.
I'm not kidding you. We moved from Arizona in October, and we packed up 35 years of junk in a house. And in a closet, I had, I'm not kidding you, 16 T-shirts from the physical therapy place I went to over those 16 years. And 2 cups.
One for each surgery.
Wow, that's intense.
I know.
So Priyanka, why does this happen to Jim? He's had so many surgeries, it's not made up, right? It's something going on with his body where it's like, you've had something on your ankle, you've had something on your knee. What other surgeries have you had? You've had something in your neck or something, a cyst in your neck?
Yeah, 2 shoulder surgeries. And that was mainly from bowling, I used to bowl.
Sure, of course.
Of
course.
But you bowled a turkey, so it doesn't matter.
I had 2 surgeries on my right index finger. That's the one where I was trying to lift heavy bags out of a van, and I tore the A1 pulley.
Yeah,
which I never knew was just like a fishing rod. The pulleys that go when you put the line through the fishing rod.
Yeah.
Real.
Yeah.
It's things like that. And 3 surgeries related to falls that I've taken over the last 2 or 3 years.
And you said this is in your family, like ancestrally. Does this go back that other people in your family lineage had these tendon issues?
Yeah. Well, my mother had polio, but she had surgeries and she wound up fracturing hips left and right. My older sisters had problems, similar type of things.
They're a very clumsy family, very, very clumsy.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting.
Everybody has neuropathy mainly. And, I noticed it affects you because you get a weakness in the leg muscles and you could fall. So.
And how far back does your ancestry go? Like, what's your ancestral history? Like, where did your ancestors come from? When did they come to the U.S.?
Monkeys, right?
Okay, well, not that far back. Let's go
just
a little
couple
further.
Years ago.
Yeah.
It was wild. They were monkeys just 2 years ago.
On my side, from my mother's side, mainly Irish.
Okay.
All the way back into roughly the early 1700s. On my father's side, half Irish, half German. Actually, on my great-great-grandfather's side, the German side, it goes all the way back to 1604.
Okay, interesting history. You could tie things back genetically to ancestry, why there's a predisposition of neuropathy in your lineage. There could have been certain nutritional deficiencies that got carried down in the ancestral line. Like, you mentioned Ireland. I mean, there was large famine at one point ancestrally, and many people died. And there could have been some genetic insults that happened at that time that are still being carried on.
Yeah.
There are studies to show epigenetically that when a trauma occurs in a generation, it can take multiple generations to heal from whatever that trauma is. So what you could be dealing with could be something related to nothing that is your own fault because of what's going on ancestrally.
Is there like a cure for neuropathy? I mean, like, what do you do if you have it?
So neuropathy can have many different causes. Before curing it, you have to figure out what is the actual cause. Like, could it be diabetes, or could it be a toxicity from a nutritional issue, or nerve damage from an injury? So it's really complicated.
It is. One thing I know is, I don't know if you could see it, but
his finger, he's showing you his finger.
Yes, I see it. Yes.
I have that, I think it's called Dupree's syndrome.
Okay.
Dupree's, what's that?
Your finger's bent. It's bent in.
I think it's called Dupuytren's.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry.
Dupuytren's contracture, right?
We'll agree to dis Dupree on this one.
Oh, I know. There's a rock and roll group that uses. No. So it's crazy. I went to Ireland. We met family there 4 years ago, and we've been back 3 times. And I went to a wedding, and I met 3 of my cousins, all male farmers, all have the exact same thing.
Oh, really?
Interesting.
On all their fingers or just one finger?
The same exact finger, the right index finger. It working in the farm, it's a.
Yeah, and now my father, I guess maybe it's some genetic thing. He's always working in the yard. Maybe that's some kind of...
Yeah, I think there's more to the story than... I don't think this is just like, oh, you broke another tendon. No, I think there's something definitely going on. And the links between the other family members, I mean, you kind of need to take a step back and ask, like, is this more ancestral in nature?
It could be. It's just, there's only a limited amount of information you have, unless, like recently I've met some family line that, there is some similarity in what you have and they have. I have 2 women cousins that both have neuropathy, like my 2 sisters have.
Right.
Wow.
Jimmy, do you get the nerve things too? What about you?
No, I have nothing.
You have nothing.
He picked up the Italian side of it.
And by the way, my mother is the opposite of this. My mother will get on a 12-foot ladder and decide to scrape all the stucco off the ceiling with a trowel and rip all the tendons out of her arm and then not go to the hospital for 3 months. And, she's kind of the opposite of it. So he really doesn't get he's not able to talk through this stuff with her at home.
Oh, wow. Because I could talk for literally days about it. I want to know something. Knowing this, it just seems like you kind of ignore it and you just want to keep, building houses and pick up all this crap and do all this hard labor when you've got a very wealthy son where you do not need to do that.
Yeah, it's not about needing to do it. It's about he likes to help.
I like to help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like right now, this grade 3 tear, if the pain management doctor I've been going to had any idea of the work I'm doing right now at my grandson's house, he would not see me anymore.
Oh, wow.
But is it something you think about as you're being physical, or do you just kind of block it out and then something happens? Like,
when I'm doing it, I block it out. Then I go home and I'm in misery. But, I feel good looking at the pictures of what I did and how nice the yard looks. And,
I'm thinking about getting him a sidekick. Somebody who can really pick up the heavy stuff, and additionally will also be somebody that has to listen to these stories, that is paid to listen to these stories. I got to find. I'm just looking for the right person.
I would apply in 2 seconds to listen to this.
I love the idea. Jimmy mentioned it last week. I already have a job for the person.
I love the idea too. It could be a very funny idea. I think it really. I think you should have a sidekick.
Like your Guillermo.
Yeah, like my Guillermo. Yeah.
So what's the top 1 or 2 things that is really on your mind right now that sucks, that's painful, that you can't deal with?
Why are you doing this, Sean?
Because I love it. I love it.
This hamstring tear is a bad. You cannot sit. I had this a couple of years ago, and I would drive 6.5, 7 hours from Arizona to California, and I would literally stop the car 3 times. But I did get treated, and I got steroid shots over a course of months, and it worked.
Okay.
Then in October, 10 months, I had no pain at all. And I went to sit down in a barber's chair, first haircut in 9 months.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman pulled the chair away as I was sitting down. I went right down on my hip.
Oh, God.
My left hip bone. And that's what I tore. That is a grade 3 tear of the hamstring.
Let me ask you, are you hyper flexible at baseline?
He is.
Okay. So there could also be a predisposition to having tendon and ligament ruptures. There's a condition called Ehlers-Danlos. Has anyone ever diagnosed you with that? It's a connective tissue disorder that you're hypermobile, and so you can bend your fingers and your joints, and a lot. Basically, Cirque du Soleil shows
double jointed almost.
I can't wait to get home to look.
Oh my God!
Online.
I just saw a rainbow appear over it. Can you spell that for him so he can Google it easily?
Yeah.
No, I have my orthopedic doctor in Scottsdale we're very close friends now, by the way.
Of course.
We've had so many surgical sessions.
He now lives with you. Yeah.
But he was the head of Columbia Medical Center Orthopedics, and he said a lot of his age. There's a lot of deterioration.
But I will say though that my doctor has told me that I am hyper flexible, and so probably we have the identical body, really.
So again, more evidence towards some sort of familial kind of cause, right? If you're both hypermobile,
I could say in the last 5 years, everything's been fall related.
Yeah, my mother pushes him down sometimes.
Okay, yeah, that could be problematic.
Jimmy, is there something right now that so you're nothing like your dad? So you're just like...
No, I'm very much like my dad, just not in this particular way.
Right. But you don't have anything that's I know you have narcolepsy. Is that like an ER story or like a really kind of oh my God, I almost died doing blank or something? You don't have anything like that?
I've only spent the night in the hospital other than being born once when I had my appendix removed. And in fact, I went to work the next morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that amazed me when I heard that.
See, I don't understand how I am completely like Jim. And I guess the thing, Jimmy, is it has to do probably, Priyanka, you're right. There's a mental, I have a lot of anxiety. I've been diagnosed with depression. And I wonder, just mentally, if some of this has to do with these are perfect examples. Like Jimmy Kimmel has been in the hospital once. I've been in the hospital 10,000 times with Jim as a roommate.
There is a sensitivity gene. There are individuals that are more sensitive compared to the baseline population. That is well established. And people who are more sensitive, they feel pain more deeply, or they are processing information more deeply. So it's possible that you have one of those sensitivity genes, and Jim does too, perhaps. And so sensitivity is this wonderful thing, but it can be like a double-edged sword because it can make you more empathic, but it can also end you up at Cedars a lot more.
Well, that's maybe what it is.
Yeah.
Guys, do you want to move on to the Dr. Wali's Hall of Fame? This is super fun.
So we're going to play a game now. And because there's 3 people, it's going to be a 3-person game. This is called Dr. Wali's Hall of Fame. You're each going to get 3 rapid-fire rounds, 3 questions each. Sean is going to go first, then Jim, then Jimmy. And I'm going to give half points for creativity. And if there's a tie, we'll do a tiebreaker round. And whoever wins gets to be in my Hall of Fame. Are we ready?
Great. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Sean, you're first.
Yes.
Okay. What was the original name for a piano?
That you play, a piano that you play.
Yes. Yes. What was the original name for a piano?
Finger fun. I have no idea. Wasn't it forte piano? Wasn't that
very good? Yes.
Is that it?
Yes, exactly. Very good. Piano means soft. Forte means loud. So piano forte.
Very good. Nice. By the way, fun fact: on the forte piano, the pedals were where your knees are at underneath the keyboard. Anyway, keep going.
Interesting.
Wow.
Nobody cares.
Okay. I may give you an extra half point.
It seemed like he deserved one.
Yes.
I'm going to give myself a half point. Yeah.
Next question. The sympathetic nervous system is responsible for what type of response in the body? Sympathetic nervous system.
Sympathetic. You for what type of response?
Yes.
Sympathetic. Crying and then guilt and then you apologize. I don't know.
Okay, close. Actually, it's the fight or flight response. It's the response that gets your adrenaline up and gets you running, and that's all sympathetic nervous system. Not being a kind person. Okay, what is the definition of an earworm?
Oh, that's a song or like a tune you can't get out of your head.
Exactly. Okay, great. So you got 2 points. Let's say 2.5 if I give you your extra point. Okay.
Good luck,
next
everybody.
Question for Jim. Jim, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. How many times has your son hosted the Emmy Awards?
2.
Oh.
It's actually 3.
It's 3. Yeah.
I was going to say, I meant the Oscars, too.
He's a huge fan of his sons. He watches everything.
Okay, next question for Jim. Anosmia is the loss of what sense? Anosmia. I can spell it for you if you'd like.
Smell.
Very good. That is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
I would have thought that was a trick question. I never would have answered that.
Yeah, a nosmia.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, final question for Jim. What year did Jimmy Kimmel Live debut on the air?
2003.
Very good. That is correct. Okay,
Nice.
so
quick.
you also got 2 points, maybe a half because of the joke about the Oscars. So let's go to Jimmy for the final round. Jimmy, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. So what do I have to get all 3 right to win this thing?
You got to get at least 2.5 to be in the game. Okay. First question. How many usable octaves does the bass clarinet have?
Oh, how many okay, wow. All right. The bass clarinet, the E-flat bass clarinet has...
How would you know that?
I play the bass clarinet. It has, let's see.
I didn't know that.
4.
That is correct.
Nice.
That is correctly.
I just did the chromatic scale with my fingers in my brain, yes.
That is super cool.
Wait a minute, do you still play it?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
That's incredible. I didn't know that. We'll have to do a duet. Okay, keep going.
Next question. What year was Sean first on your show, Jimmy Kimmel Live?
Oh, okay.
Jeez, there's no way.
I'm going to say 2008.
Oh, close. It was 2007.
How would you even? That's crazy.
That's pretty close, though. That's great.
That's nice.
Okay, final question. Jimmy, enteritis is the inflammation of which part of the body? Enteritis.
I'm going to guess the ear.
Unfortunately, that's not correct. It's the small intestine. Enteritis is inflammation of the small intestine. So
I knew that.
That puts you...
You did?
I knew it was in the abdomen area. I didn't know
but
exactly
I knew how many times I hosted the Emmys. And
that's true.
No. Yeah.
Okay, so I would say actually there's a bit of a tie between Jim and Sean because
now
you
I'm
both
thinking
got
enema, of course, enteritis. Yes, that's the
that's what it is.
The rear end,
get it in there. Get it in there.
So we need a tiebreaker between Jim and Sean. So let's move the camera.
Good
so
luck,
I want to
Dad.
see. Okay.
We're all counting.
All right.
If
Okay, this
my
is
father wins, can his prize be to talk about his ailments for another 35 minutes?
I will accept that.
I feel like now there's going to be a cold turkey period when this is over, and it's going to be hard to I'm going to have to kind of ease him out of this mindset, and it's going to be difficult. I'm worried about him.
I love it.
I can give him my number. That's
okay, great.
fine.
That would be great.
So tiebreaker. So the first person to answer correctly or close enough wins. Okay. Between Sean and Jim, what's the name of the skyscraper in Die Hard?
Oh, I've no idea. I would have never seen that.
Okay, well,
the skyscraper building.
Okay. So that's Sean. Do you have any answer? Then he's going to win because he has it. Okay. Well, then
Fox Plaza.
Okay. The answer is the Nakatomi Plaza. So
Fox Plaza is where it was shot. So you should give him that.
How about that?
Okay, that was our EPMGT to clarify. Thank you so much, Michael, for that. So there we go. Jim is the winner.
We did cheat on that one. I'm going to admit that I may have Googled that and held it up.
I could kind of hear it in the background. Yeah.
Jim, congratulations. You are now in Dr. Wali's Hall of Fame.
Does winning make you feel any better? Does it heal anything inside of you knowing you won?
The only thing I feel very good about getting back home and looking up that.
He's so happy to have a new syndrome. It's what a strange dynamic, right? I mean,
I didn't mention one thing before.
I want to know.
One of the most amazing things to me was that I was in emergency room. I had prostatitis.
Oh my God!
Wow.
And I sent a text to Jimmy to tell him what was happening.
Yeah.
In case, because he's my
emergency contact.
My emergency contact.
Yeah.
And he was in ER at another hospital at the same time.
Oh, when I could, yeah.
Oh, well, there's two. So you're calling your sons alive.
The only thing, and I'm very jealous, Sean, because while I've only been an outpatient, I've never made it to stay. I've never been in a hospital overnight, ever.
Well, see, I'm not saying I've never been in the hospital because I've had stitches and that sort of thing, but I've not spent the night in the hospital.
Spent the night. Oh, I see.
Never spent the night in the hospital?
No, ever.
We're just coming clean here.
Dr. Wali, if you had asked me how many nights has your father spent in the hospital, I'd have said, I don't know, I guess like a couple of years.
Actually, my orthopedic doctor said, I can make it happen for you just to break the record. I said, no, that's fine.
Wait a minute. What's prostatitis? Obviously, it has to do with prostate.
It's an inflammation that I had. I couldn't urinate.
And for how long? For how long?
7 hours in the middle of the night. And I didn't want to wake my wife or my grandkids up. They were staying with us.
I've had
it's
that.
It's very painful.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's very
Wait, so you
Once
take
they gave me the morphine, That was the best.
So wait a minute, but didn't you take a pill to like an anti-inflammatory to relax it down there?
They basically gave me a cystoscope to check me out and found out I had the prostatitis. And then they flush it out and they put you on antibiotics. And
yeah, it's usually caused by bacteria.
I had to wear a bag for about 4 days. Oh, before I forget, when I was wearing the bag, I had to fly back to Arizona to have my urologist check me out because the ER doctor said you should go see a urologist. So I was on a plane and I got stopped by security and they frisked me.
No way.
They called me into a room because they didn't realize I had a bag on.
A lot of people would not want that, but for him, another opportunity.
It was only a quarter full, so
Wait, a pee?
Yeah.
Wow, and they burst it open?
No, it's just they store it, and they were revolted by it.
They squeezed it real hard, and it squirted out his ears.
I was going to say.
Oh my gosh!
I was going to say, wait, that's crazy. But now you don't have it. You're cured of prostatitis.
Yeah. Well, I've had it again. I had it a second time. The second time I knew what was going on, and I got a prescription right away, and that cleared it up. So.
Oh wow. Jim, I just want to say, what a testament to the resilience of a human being, right? Like, you've been through so much.
Yeah. How do you keep such a positive attitude when you have 80,000 things going wrong at one time inside of you?
Once it happens, I've learned to say, okay, and I learn everything I can about it. And I talk to doctors that I know and I trust. And then usually my thing is, hey, if I can get surgery, get it over with, let's do it.
And do you sleep well with all these things, or does it just keep you up at night? Like right now, your hamstring, can you sleep?
The hamstring is a problem. I can't lay on my left side. It's just not good.
I'm curious, Jim, what does self-care look like for you? Like, what kinds of things do you do for yourself just to make yourself feel good?
Sometimes he has a bagel.
Wine, yeah. I had an everything bagel this morning.
Yeah.
Jimmy brought over bagels for Mother's Day, and there was one left. I had it.
Oh, my God. You're out of control.
I drink wine now, which I never used to do.
Okay.
I've been...
Yeah, he watches the Dodgers.
I watch. I'm actually watching on my phone.
So your plate is full. Listen, you guys, I can't thank you enough for being here and sharing this. Because listen to me, anytime, Jim, listen, open invitation, anytime, podcast or not, or phone call, I am here for you. We can bond over our stories.
I love it. I appreciate it. I wish you had been able to meet this Dr. Barrett that I had.
Me too. Oh, he was the best.
No, I'm serious. He 6 months of the year travels, doesn't work, and teaches doctors all over the world how to do these nerve decompression surgeries. Diabetic neuropathy, if you have ulcers in your foot, you can't feel the pain.
The other 6 months, he talks to my father on the phone.
It really impressed me. That's what when I was on that board, I was very hyped up then because the work the guy was doing and how it helped me, that's all I wanted.
It was weird. They spelled board, Bored. It was a strange choice, but
they've had it, yeah. Well, thanks, you guys. We appreciate your time.
Thank you to both of you.
And sending you lots of love and lots of healing thoughts.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care,
so
guys.
Much.
Take care. Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Wasn't that great? Like Jimmy said at the top, it's like, it's delicious. It's like everything I wanted. I could talk to him for hours.
There was a lot to unpack there.
There was a lot to unpack. It just wasn't one issue, right? It was a lot, but I just love it. And you're so informative and helpful.
It's never one issue, right? It's always like the rabbit hole kept getting deeper. And if we had kept going, like, I'm sure he would send us 5 pages of his pain management history, you know?
Yeah, I would love to read that.
I would happily read it as well.
Right?
That's the thing.
I think it's so fascinating. What a great guest, though. Jimmy Kimmel is the nicest, and I just love him, and he's been a friend for a long time, and now I love his dad. I wish his dad was my dad.
Yeah.
I connect with him on so many levels because of so many similar things we've had, and despite our age difference, I love to hear about it, and I hope he can sit normally soon.
I know. That ischial tuberosity.
Hamstring just tear. I can't even, it hurts my genitals to think about it.
I know. I'm glad you haven't torn your hamstring.
Wait another 10 minutes.
Okay.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. That's the show today. Until next time.
Yeah. And again, if you enjoy listening to this, please subscribe at apple.co/HYPO or wherever you listen these days.
That's apple.co/hypo. Don't worry. Be healthy. Bye.
Ciao.
Hypochondriactor is a Hazy Mills production, hosted by me, Sean Hayes, and Dr. Priyanka Wali. Michael Grant Terry and Todd Milliner are our executive producers. Rebecca Eisenberg is our producer. Production and editing is by Rabbit Grin Productions, and original music by Scott Eisenogel and Leora Rosner. This is a Hazy Mills production. All content discussed on Hypochondriactor are the individual opinions of Dr. Priyanka Wali and Sean Hayes and should not be construed as personalized medical advice. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical condition in either yourself or others. Please consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the podcast.